Hello and welcome back, fellow nerds. I'm Michelle, and today on Dees Nerds, we're going to be looking at movies for Halloweenies, or people who don't like to be very scared. Okay, so I think we all know someone, or possibly are someone, who don't like to be very scared. They like to keep things pretty light, pretty fun, or if they're going to be a little bit heavier, they need to be pretty tame. So, what I thought I would do today, being one of those people who sometimes feels like she needs a little bit of Halloweeny help, is try to guide you and tell you some of the movies that I think are beneficial for different reasons depending on what kind of mood your Halloweeny might be in. So, of course, we have the classics, and these are two that are always out there: Hocus Pocus and The Nightmare Before Christmas. Everyone knows these. They're on Disney Plus, they're watchable, they're great. This is actually a 4K of Hocus Pocus and then Nightmare Before Christmas as well. So, these are two that everybody knows. They're great, they're fun, and they're classics. But I wanted to delve a little bit beyond what you might have obviously thought of for someone who doesn't like to be scared. So, remaining in sort of on the light side of things, we're first going to start with some things that lean more on the comedic side than on the serious side. So, the first couple up are actually zombie films, so you do have to be patient with a little bit of gore in these, but they're really not rightly scary. So, the first one of those is Warm Bodies. And Warm Bodies, I would say, is as much a romantic comedy as it is a zombie movie. The zombie stuff is a big part of the story, but it's really not the focus. Like, you're not watching zombies eat people the whole movie. It's more about this zombie who goes by R in the movie trying to find his humanity again. So it's definitely Halloween themed being zombies, but it's not scary. There is a minor bit of gore in it if that bothers you, but I would say for the quality of the movie overall, it's definitely worth a watch. Another one that is a definite comedy, but definitely has more on the gore side and is pretty heavy in spots, is Zombieland. And this is a classic comedy, in my opinion. Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of great jokes, a lot of great lines. It actually makes some really good jokes, I think, at the expense of kind of horror movies in general, as Jesse Eisenberg's character has this set of rules that he follows during the zombie apocalypse to stay alive. And so I think there's some really funny things in there that we are constantly yelling out during other horror movies when we see them doing things that are against his rules. So, like I said, definitely more on the gore side, but highly funny and more funny than it is scary for sure. Going in a little bit different direction, more the monstery direction, was something that I think also leans quite comedic, is Tremors. This one definitely has a little bit of a cheese factor to it, but it's fantastic. It's Kevin Bacon, and the two main characters here are a lot of fun together. And there's a very slight bit of gore in this one, but it's pretty cheese-tastic, so I wouldn't worry too much about really being concerned and grossed out. But it's a good kind of action-y movie. Obviously, you have this monster here, but it's really not a terribly scary monster. It's more about them trying to figure out how to get rid of the monster than the monster really doing a whole lot of damage. I mean, it does do damage, but it's not like gory, gross damage. So this is a really fun one, another one with a lot of laughs. And then we have to talk about this one because this is one, as all Mel Brooks films are, that is just meant to be outright funny. Now, this is in our giant Mel Brooks collection set that we have, but it is Young Frankenstein. So here's the disc over here. Young Frankenstein stars Gene Wilder. It is absolutely hilarious. It is a spoof, a spoof of the original the original Frankenstein series movies. So I'm talking about the 1930s Universal Monsters Frankenstein movies. We actually talked about those in our ranked video, so if you haven't seen that, we'll put that in the card up here above. But this is a fantastic movie. It's so much fun. It is not gory at all. It's not scary at all. It is Frankenstein, but funny. So if you've seen any of the old ones, which I'm also going to recommend here in a minute as part of this as well, then it's a lot of fun to go and see this and see where they got all the jokes from, because they're definitely pulling some jokes and making fun of some things from those original movies. Gene Wilder is a genius. Mel Brooks is also a genius. So moving on to that then, we're going to look at some classic movies. So these are some that are more meant to be more traditionally scary, but because they're much older movies, tend not to really feel that way. So first, of course, we're going to look at the Universal Monsters. And Really, any of these films are phenomenal. If you really want to be um, cautious and not watch anything even remotely scary, I would say then that in this particular set is Phantom of the Opera. This is not really one of the overall universal classic horror monsters, but it is in this set, interestingly enough, although they didn't do the other box sets like we have with this one. I think it's just because it's one movie. But that one is completely not scary, and it's also got a romantic touch to it. The rest of these, of course, we've got Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolf Man, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. All great movies. Technically supposed to be scary movies, but as they're 1930s, they're not gory, they're not jump scares, it's none of that. It's just traditional, good, simple horror. So just watching people act on screen, and you've got some sort of monster, but they're really not frightening monsters. It's just good stories. So I think these are great for someone who wants to watch something very traditionally Halloweeny without really being frightened and without getting nightmares afterwards. Along with that, I want to point out the Vincent Price collections. So I absolutely love Vincent Price. I think he was a national treasure. And these two, we actually have three of these, but most of my favorites are in these two. So we have the Vincent Price collection and Vincent Price collection volume 2. A lot of these are based on Edgar Allan Poe stories. They are minimally gross. There's just some blood mostly. And there are a couple of scary moments, but it's not like jump scares. It's nothing that's going to give you nightmares. Again, it's just good, solid storytelling and amazing acting. I think the actors they picked for these movies are phenomenal. So some of my favorites in these are the Pit and the Pendulum, the Haunted Palace, the Fall of Usher, and in this one, the House on Haunted Hill. So all fantastic. Good for someone who, again, wants that more traditional kind of scary movie feel without being truly scared. Next up, we're going to go for another classic set, and that is Alfred Hitchcock. So obviously all Alfred Hitchcock films have some measure of suspense in them, but I'm going to choose a couple here specifically that are less terrifying. And I think I say this because as a teenager, the first time I watched Psycho, I was probably, I don't know, around 11 or 12. And I was scared to take a shower for ages. So I don't know that I would say that's a great one for Halloweenies. Looking back on it, it is, but at the time it was scary. But I would say there's a couple in here that definitely fall in that category. So for me, one of those is Rope. And this is a really interesting movie because it's, I think almost all of it was taken in one shot, like one uncut shot. The camera continuously moves, they continually act. And so the majority of the movie is uncut. It's just as it was as they filmed it. But the premise of the movie is that these two men live in an apartment. They have a man over that they then kill and put in this like chest in their living room, and they're having people come over, so they put like a tablecloth over it and have a party, and it's this whole big thing. It's got Jimmy Stewart in it. It's phenomenal. The suspense is real. You feel really uncomfortable watching what's going on, but it's not scary. But I do think it's a wonderful watch. And similarly, one that's probably better known is Jimmy Stewart and Rear Window. So this one is more of a kind of sleuth murder mystery thing too, and not outright scary, but definitely suspenseful and really interesting to watch. And Grace Kelly in this is absolutely beautiful too. So one that I very much enjoy. And this is also one they've actually done quite a few remakes of as well. Disturbia, if you've ever heard of that, had Shia LaBeouf in it, is basically a modern day Rear Window. And they've also done quite a few TV shows where they've done an episode like Rear Window. So that's a good one too. And then I want to go with a couple that I think are maybe not such traditional choices for thinking about Halloween movies. So one of them I think that is technically considered horror, but that's Jaws. And Jaws, while scary, I don't think is in any way terrifying. I don't think it's going to be nightmare inducing unless you're going to be, swimming in the ocean every day. But it's a great movie. Really, again, some great acting, some really fun moments, and just, it's a classic. It's great. So I think that's a good one for people who, again, want to be a little bit scared about being terrified. There are definitely some jump scares in this one and a minor bit of gore, but it is a pretty old movie, so it's not very bad. Next up are a couple of newer ones. One of them is, I'm not sure exactly how I would classify this movie. I don't think it's horror, but I'm not sure exactly what I would say that it is. So this one is called The Others. It's with Nicole Kidman, and it's about a woman and these kids who live in this huge house after a war is over. I believe it's World War II is supposed to have finished, and they live in this house. They get some new help that shows up, but the daughter keeps thinking she sees or is talking to these other people in the house. So it's really, really good. It's got maybe one or two minor jump scares, but honestly, this one is all about the story and all about the characters. So you just kind of have to stick with it and see what happens, because I think it's fascinating and definitely takes some turns that you don't expect. And then last but certainly not least is one of my absolute favorite movies, period. So this is Shutter Island with Mark Ruffalo and Leonardo DiCaprio. This one, again, I don't know exactly how I would classify it. I think it definitely falls in a suspense mystery, but it doesn't quite hit it. We definitely don't quite hit horror with this one. So there are definitely a couple of jumpy moments in this movie, but the premise here is that these two characters are supposed to be on an investigation trying to find a patient that got loose on this island called Shutter Island. It's basically an island that is nothing but an asylum. And when they arrive, it's chaos. There are patients out everywhere. All this stuff has happened, and they're slowly trying to uncover what has happened, while you're also starting to understand that Leonardo DiCaprio's character has some strange secrets that he hasn't quite dealt with. So again, wonderful story, wonderful acting. If you want to see Mark Ruffalo in something that's not romantic comedy and not the Hulk, this is a great choice. And Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, is always a slam dunk. So again, an excellent choice, I think, for someone who wants to be really invested in the story, maybe a little uncomfortable, but definitely not fully scared. I think this is one that just really piques your curiosity more than anything. So those are my picks for Halloweenies. If you don't want to be super scared, if you want to have fun and you want to enjoy the suspenseful feeling and the tension without feeling the terror when you go to bed, these are great picks for you, and I hope that you enjoy them. If you have any other suggestions for movies for people who don't like to be scared but want to try to be scared, please drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to our channel. You can also ring that bell for notifications whenever we post a new video. In between videos, if you want to chat, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Dees Nerds. I hope you all have a wonderful, safe rest of the day. Bye!